Welcome to a new episode of DevSecOps Talks with me, Mattias.
Paulina?
Andrey, not live now.
Not live. Yeah,
Managed.
Recorded edition.
New technology, a lot of things happen.
All the
So,
time.
we're getting back again. Long time no see. I think we have like 2 episodes and we are like splitting up.
Yeah, we missed, I think, last week, at least me and Andrey. I'm not sure. Yeah.
We talked about EU hosting, EU cloud provider. Yeah. Funny talk. But today is a little bit more sad talk, Paulina, right?
Yeah, I think, we have 1st of June. So by 1st of June, we have Copilot pricing changes going into place. And what I see in some of the organizations, or in quite a few, there is quite a bit of panic around the cost of it and how much it costs versus, and how the people use it. So one thing, they look into, okay, how much we spend and how much we can decrease spending per person by putting hard limits on it. But what comes with it as a user or as a developer, very often you have limited, you get less for more. So you have to pay more money for what you are getting less. That's one thing. And being able to still work effectively with it if you don't have, max planning as you have with cloud or something.
Yes. So,
like
so
this.
what does this mean, right? It's changing the how much money how many tokens you can use per dollar, like in Copilot, which means that if you're spending a lot of tokens, the price will be a lot higher. Is that?
Yeah, we pretty much moved from premium request billing to more token billings. Yeah, so depending how many words, how many tokens you use, then you are priced by this. Andrey.
Yes, so we had a whole episode on another podcast that I'm doing now, like Agentic AI in DevOps, like where we define the big squeeze, and that's pretty much everyone doing that. I mean, like Cursor was the first, the bravest. They did it last year, where they went from the request to actual plain API tokens. It's still possible to use Cursor today, so their composer model is free. Basically, you pay, but then you can use it at unlimited.
Yeah.
If you use any other model, then you pay API rates, which is like still a decent deal. With Claude, you have a subscription with a limit, so you cannot go full throttle forever. You have like 5-hour windows, and then you have a weekly window. It was very short. Now they did a deal with SpaceX, and that's SpaceX, and now it's like a little bit more usable. I mean, like it's now harder to hit the limits, assuming you're using Opus as your daily backup.
Yeah.
Like if you're using like Haiku or Sonnet for some reason, you probably you will have a hard time hitting the daily limit. But like if you're running with Opus, it's actually not that hard to hit it. So I kind of, the Copilot is actually one of those who are coming late to this, but I do expect that this trend to continue, that we will be moving more and more towards the API rates model. I mean, like the OpenAI, they're the only ones, like, because they feel they kind of lagging behind a little bit, so they're like trying to attract people with a lot of subsidies. But basically, those subsidies, like we are talking about subsidies a lot. Yeah, like mostly subsidies that they're going to be drying up. Like if you're using Kira from AWS, for instance, they also give you credits that last for a month, and then every month it's renewed for like 20, 40, whatever bucks is the highest tier. So those are subsidies. They eventually will disappear.
But what does this mean, right? You're saying that some has like you pay a monthly fee, like Claude, right? You pay like $99, and then you can use. Then you get like windows, like how many tokens you can burn during which time, right? And then you said Cursor, they have like they have a subscription. Then you can use free, but then you have to pay per API if you need using the more advanced modules. And now, Paulina, how does Copilot fit in this?
Yeah, so it's also swapping from requests, so-called premium requests, as before we were priced for. Now we are swapping into tokens usage. Yeah, so how many tokens we are using, and what comes with it, what Andrey already mentioned. Different models are priced differently, and there was before as well. So you have some models which are cheaper or almost much cheaper, or you have some like Opus, which I think Opus, the latest one, it was 15 times more expensive than standard fee. And the second, the oldest one, was 3 times. So depending, here we're coming with optimization, what you can use to what task, because you don't need the newest the most expensive model to every small simple task as well. And I've seen a lot of people using it just because that was the most developed. So it's also about optimization, what you are using for what, and not overdoing it.
Yeah. But is there like a risk that, like, if you're using Copilot and another tool and they change the pricing model, that your bill will explode, right? You think you are paying for like a cap, say like, if I was working with Claude now and then I get rate limit and then they change it and then I suddenly have to pay for all those tokens that I burned, right? It's going to be a lot more expensive. Is that what people are worried about now, that the pricing is catching up?
Yeah, that you get less for more, pretty much. So for example, I compared what I used today, even on the new pricing. If I work similarly, I pay $20 in theory, because you also have the in Copilot, versus what I put $2 or $3 before change of pricing. So that it's drastic. How do you call it? Drastic change versus what it was if you not change how you use it as well.
Yeah.
I have another plug and perspective on this.
Yeah.
So right now we're talking mostly about coding agent subscriptions, right? So you have Pilot, Codex, Cloud Code, Cursor, whatever. But there is also another angle to this. So for instance, organization might be building AI-enabled products, and then they would consume the API through a platform. So they could be buying either directly from LLM provider, so for instance, using OpenAI development platform or Anthropic development platform. Those would be different. So those two subscriptions are different. You have like a user subscription that comes with the subsidies, and then you would have development API access where you pay API rates. So like just remember that those two different things, and I would say those are also like there is another scare, like when it comes to the API consumption. So for instance, if you are, well, that's like my world, right? So on AWS, there is a Bedrock. You can consume Anthropic models through Bedrock. And then like imagine you have a runaway program that just keeps hammering the API. That would be like Converse API. Burning the tokens, and then suddenly you owe $5,000 just because your program like misbehaved. I seen that happened. It's also possible to switch Cloud Code or like Open Code, for instance, to use Bedrock as a backend. Then you're losing your subscription subsidies and you're just paying the API rate. It's also possible. I've seen people doing that a lot on CI/CD, for instance, because in the end of the day, most of those coding agents, they're just JavaScript programs that could be quickly installed in the GitHub Action Runner, for instance. And then if you have your private like Bedrock roles, you can consume through the role. Then you can do a code review. We actually have a blog post that I will link to the show notes. Like one of the consultants in 5XL wrote it, where how you can define the role that will be like, so basically you can set a cap through the IAM on Bedrock spending, which was like not the obvious thing to do. Like it's not very obvious how to do it, but it's actually possible. And then you can say like, well, start declining requests on an IAM level when we like spend 3,000.
But I think you can do it on the API as well. If you pay for OpenAI or Anthropic, you can put a cap on it. So what you're saying is, like, instead of using example of Claude, like on your developing, like using Claude, you go to like Open Code and then connect that to Bedrock, and is using the same module, just another way of consuming the same module, but you have the control over the spending.
Yeah, you basically have a puzzle that you are collecting. You have a harness, that's something that would run locally. You either utilize a harness provided by LLM provider, so that would be Kiro CLI, Codex, Cloud Code, whatever.
Yeah.
Or you bring your own PyDev. You can open code, maybe Hermes or OpenClose. Those would be the harnesses that do something locally for you. And then you bring the LLM backend. You either bring your API key from OpenAI Anthropic, or you, through the role, like you connect to Bedrock. I think it's called Vertex on Google Cloud. There is something on Azure like that. You might use OpenRoute or whatever. So there are like options to have a backend. You kind of build it your own, like how you like to consume it. And most of them would have a way to control the budget. So that's like one of the most important parts here, right? So you kind of want to have a cap, or at least be aware of how much you spend, and there are no surprises.
And I think we're talking also about two things. One thing is that your application is using AI. Another thing that you using AI for the coding. And I'm more interested right now in the first one, because I think that's what is hitting more, because usually not everyone has access to the second one, or not everyone is using actively AI in their applications.
There is a third possibility, is that your company has a token usage as a performance metrics on employees, and you just token maxing.
Yeah, but your company can also have a cap for you how much you can use. And what if you know, what's happening if you use the cap within 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks?
Right. But only that like performance is of course, do you want to spend, I mean, isn't that like, if you have tokens spend, like you're paying for cloud, you have a lot of tokens, you want to spend them so they go to good use, right?
But it's just
but the price is going up crazy now.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, what can people do to being able more efficiently use what they have? Like, you can start new session, or how which model used to what, and so on. I'm talking about optimization for this part.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's important to say that there will be a couple of types of companies here, or maybe a couple of points of use within the company. So far, we mostly spoke about CFO view, like who actually cares about the budget.
Yeah.
Then, like, if you look at CEO view, there are people who are like, yes, AI is changing the world. We have to do as much as possible AI, like everyone, just like, like Meta, or like those, like take your, like we will put AI use as a performance metric. When we evaluate you as an employee. There are companies like that. There are companies who are like, we're not sure, we might like be trying to find a middle ground. So I think the approach would be different, but like interesting thing here, if you stop looking from the company perspective, there is also like the developer perspective of that, right? So like some of them just say it's all bullshit still, like in 2026. Some of them actually like them to use the models, and now it's becoming a perk, right? So you might have people who say, I'm going to quit if you use Jira, depending how people pronounce it. Now you can have, like, people might have a conversation about, like, well, what is my token budget?
Yeah, I'm talking about middle ground, when you want your employees and your organization to being able to use AI, but you also want to be cost effective, and you also want to teach people how to be cost effective with AI. I mean, the same as we are, we have all whole FinOps for cloud usage and how we are dealing with it. I think it's the same coming to AI usage into the development. And as you know, usually you have someone looking into how, it's from architectural point of view and how you use it within your system. But for the development, it's more touching everyone. If you're touching the code, you're developing with AI probably.
But is it our fault that we've been spending so much token on so much stuff that we don't need? I mean, people have been burning tokens like crazy and just like stuff, and then without really like like pinning down the like this is where you should go, right? So you have less. Is that the problem that we're seeing now, and that's why they're making a change?
I think people, like when the price start to bite, right? So for instance, you can spend 5,000-6,000 tokens to fetch to ship the feature, which would be like maybe equivalent to some level of seniority engineer salary.
Yeah.
Then like people start as soon as you stop paying subsidies, like as soon as you stop paying like $20 a month, which is unsustainable. Those questions start to arrive, right? So like now we're actually paying real money for all those tokens. What are we getting in return? Like, are we actually getting something out of value?
Yeah.
And this is an equation that something needs to be solved.
Yeah, but also one thing is like, are you ever gonna work without the AI agent again? Like, even if you if you replace the AI agent with a senior person, that senior person is gonna use AI. I mean,
yeah, I think cost of it is coming into place, but it being cost optimized is part of it as well. You want to get as much as possible out of your money, especially if it's starting to be, as Andrey mentioned, real money. Yeah. So you wanna your developers to develop effectively, cost effectively as well, and not only burn tokens for burning tokens. Because if it's one developer, fine, but if you have few thousand of developers or few hundred or even 20, that starts to add up.
Yeah. I don't see myself going back coding without the AI agent again, right? Or working.
No, but it's like, okay, how do you develop? Do you need to use Opus for everything, or you can use different models? It's then, okay, how do you put everything in one session, or can you clear your sessions more often?
Is that gonna be like the next set of tools that are gonna arrive? More like you plan more like, but with some lower agent to plan out stuff, and then it sends over to more advanced agents to do like the work, right? More like a conversation to optimize the spending more or less, and use the right agent and like the right modules at the right time. Would that be the next kind of tools we're gonna see arrive?
I think it's not even only about tools, it's also about, skill set and knowledge. Okay, I'm using more complex agent for planning, for example, but for implementation it can be simpler if a task is not so complex. If I have, 10 lines, 2 or 3 lines to change, then, I don't need Opus. I can take even Sonnet or even maybe something lower to being able to get a change in. Or so, it's not black and white, but it's... I think being aware how to use it effectively, similar as with cloud. Sure, something gonna be more expensive and gonna give you certain value, or you can get something else and gonna be less expensive, but you need more work around it. So it doesn't gonna be black and white, but you're more aware also, what you are spending on how, and more analysis of it, and probably more ownership. I already see more trends to being able to monitor more in detail what developers are using, which model, when, what is the daily usage, how many days they use it, which models did they use, how much, what is cost per model, how much per, PR, for example, what was of course, they're going to be simpler and more complex tasks. Or maybe, instead of getting 5 user stories in one big PR, make 5 PRs. So again, how you use it, not necessarily getting more tools to being able to manage it.
Do we also see, like, it's as we pointed out already before, like a lot of companies that are built and then using token in the background, right? There are a lot of different companies that use AI in the background, and you can, in their sauce, you can type something and they're using some AI things to calculate or do actions. The price for those will also go up, right? Do you think we see more when you bring your own key to these kind of products instead? I mean, if you want a company to burn a lot of tokens, and now the pricing go up a lot, right? They need to add it to the users as well, which means that users might go like, no, this is too expensive. But where do you see there we're going?
Hard to tell. Like, really, everything is changing fast. So like one possible path that people were discussing quite a bit is using local AI because like you are buying a decent machine. Like if you are buying a decent machines to the developers, like for instance, if you go with Macs, the Apple Silicon is quite well optimized for running the language models.
Yeah.
Also with what it was quantum with turbo quant technology in Gemma 4, where you like activate only parts, like the different level of packaging the knowledge into the LLMs. So like some decent level of intelligence starts to become possible to run locally with a decent token per second out. Important thing is like token per second, right? So you might be able to load the model in the memory, but then like if you're getting half a token a second, you will not accomplish anything. So if you can do something like offload hard work, like heavy lifting of planning to the cloud provided model and then run the execution with a local model, like a hybrid approach, or like maybe if you have agents that can, like for the tool calling, right? Like for the editing the file system, where there you can use a local model. For instance, if you ever run cloud code with a Bedrock as backend, you would actually see that no matter what model you choose, it will always offload tool calling to Haiku. So it will always call Haiku in the background for tool calling while doing the main agent processing with the model you choose. So like some of the harnesses already doing that, but they do it with just downgrading requests to the models. I think the like OpenRouter might have something, like don't quote me on that, but the OpenRouter might have a similar capability. So it's kind of emerging, but I think we have a long way to go before it's going to settle, and it's really unclear how it's going to change. Like with the RAM prices going up, the local LLMs becoming less viable. Basically.
Yeah, also I think one of the stuff I've seen was that, MCP, if you create your own MCPs, people start using toolboxes or namespaces to divide it, to not call, everything at once, but more depending on the context, make it more complex. So it, only by getting more and more information, it go particular. So for example, you want to, change something in Jira, but there is 10 actions or 10 tools for Jira. So before you call all of it, it want to understand that you want to change something in Jira and then something, what exactly in Jira. So it's a bit like a tree structure down before it gets to the particular tool, instead of giving you everything at once.
I very well know what you're talking about. Like we do the same, like with the Boris. Like remember that we discussed the Boris. Like we do a lot of distillation of what is it user wants.
Yeah.
On the different layers before actually something happens, and like the context comes in. So yeah,
is that to like to analyze the question down, trying to understand what the user wants, and then trying to optimize it. This is the tools, this is the modules, and before you even run the big stuff, right?
Yeah, but think it's like one agent, like one LLM is not capable of doing anything complex, because you just have a tiny window of like the context window, right? Yeah. So if there is like 1 million token window, but that's really a lie. It's really degrading, performance really degrading as soon as you go over like those 200k limits. So like we should assume that like we are the best while we're staying in 100k. Then 100k to 200k is like still possible. As soon as you go over, it's either compact, or like you're going to this 1 million token LLM land, but it's kind of still is like you're starting to pay more and more. So it's like everything being sent each time. So it's also not ideal. So like ideally you would stay with a small context windows. But then as Paulina said, all the stuff that's being loaded on the start of the session, that eats into that context window. So if you have like tons of MCPs, all of that, like if they define the tons of tools, all the tools descriptions being loaded, the system prompt, any kind of agent MD file that you have in there. So it's you have to really like balance it and learn it. It's the new tooling that people need to learn and get sophisticated about it. And like we are still a very long way to go from it being consumer friendly. Like the typical user friendly, because like everything that we're discussing now is like maybe obvious for people who worked with that for a couple of years already. But like if you're just starting with it, you would have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, this, or even, if you have agent for being able to do, review. Like maybe you don't need review till you make it work. So you don't need review on every commit. Make it review, for example, because that also adds up. If you, for example, have 10 commits and you run review on every, you're also using the tokens, which are not really necessary. You can only run it on the last one, being able to get review or something like this, or last 2 or 3 instead of 10. So
yeah, but maybe you have like different tiers, right? You can run the review first with like a lower to catch, and then scale up. I like the local models as well. I think that they are picking up as well, especially when we can run them locally to help you out.
Yeah, Mac Mini is, for example, sold out in whole Denmark.
So like Mac Mini doesn't really solve your problem like that. Yeah,
no, but I see people. It's more like showing. I can see that people are, trying to run something locally. That's what I mean more by, that it's solving the issue.
Yeah,
it's
there was
more
like a
as
lot
a trend.
of hype around OpenClaw, running OpenClaw on your Mac Mini. But I mean, like that's fine to run maybe your local assistant, but it will not help you to do any kind of coding work. So you need to have a beefier machine. And then you basically like, you're looking at a MacBook Pro sized machine, like with a lot of RAM in there. And like now with RAM prices going up everywhere, like with all consumer devices prices going up everywhere, like those will become more expensive. That's why I'm saying local inference still like under the question. And we'll see what happens there. One thing about like Mattias, like going back to what you said, so, like running first pass with a stupid model, like the results might be suboptimal. So you would need to do extra passes. In some cases, it actually makes sense to pay for the higher model and then have less passes.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean, like, yeah, you're paying more, but you actually need to spend less tokens to get to the result you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe you debug something what you stack, or there is an issue when you need a result fast instead of going back and forth with the model, which maybe give you, as you mentioned, Andrey, more passes to get to the result versus a few.
Yeah. If at all.
Yeah.
But have you stopped making it run your task for you, right? Are you starting committing and pushing by yourself to save tokens? I mean, I let my AI do all this boring stuff that I was like, oh, good work. Like, oh, you can commit and push this. Like, even simple tasks, I let the agent do, right? To burn tokens, because I don't bother just going into it manually. It's just simple to give it to the agent, and they can figure out. It
depends what kind of subscriptions you have. I guess you're using subscription that is like fully paid, and you're never hitting the limits, and you're not paying from your own pocket.
True.
This is like a perk for employee, right? So like now you can just offload that to the model. You're technically getting the same kind of work done, but the person is a bit more happier.
Yeah, happier is true. Can drink coffee and still doing like commit and reading stuff and so much.
Yeah. Like if it's like your own subscriptions, then like would you still burn tokens on a commit? Depends on the plan and how much you're willing to spend. So like those questions are emerging, and ideally we need to have some kind of hybrid model. Some of the harnesses already doing that, as like I mentioned, is a Cloud Code. I'm not sure about others. Codex is open source, so people can inspect Codex and see what's going on there.
That's cool. Okay, we come up 30 minutes. Any last tips and tricks now to how you should navigate in this jungle of modules and pricing and
think we mentioned a few, if you don't have, like unlimited subscription, one of the things is like, monitor your use cases. Another thing, clean your window context. Don't give everything to your MCP, What else? Be aware which model you use for what, because not everything needs Opus.
There are plenty of tools out there that kind of let you to do a low-level monitoring of what you use for, like the agents that integrates with your agents. Like just Google it. Like there are plenty of them that can break down what the token being spent on that you can run locally. There are also tools that help you to optimize your spend. Like there is like RTK tool, I think Rust Token Killer it's called. That one is quite helpful, like especially if you use your harness to run everything as Mattias does, for instance. That one kind of understands most of the CLI commands and what's important there, and can strip stuff like white spaces, unnecessary wording, and then just give the agent what matters. Then you could also use hooks if you want to go even lower, like then you can use hooks, measure the size of the outputs, maybe ignore some of, like reject some of those or strip some of those if you want to. Like some of the harnesses do that, but then like you might miss what was asked for when you're running the tool. So there are options, like plenty of open source options to monitor. Since the provider tools, like for instance Cloud management dashboard gives you a very high level view of like pretty much like lines per person, and it doesn't go into detail. So if you want to optimize your personal use, RTK, look at that, it's free. They also have like a paid version, but like the free version is good enough. And they claim to save you 50-60% on token use. While I think they claim more on the website, but like in my personal experience, it's about like 50-60, which is like decent.
Yeah.
So there are ways and get more sophisticated the way you use.
Yeah. I think also like there are ways so you can use your token smarter, right? If you're sitting with any coding agent and they say like, oh, you're burning too much token, you start using the tools in a better way. Then you will like switch modules and be smarter what you use, and that will lower the token spend, I guess. Okay, with that, thanks for tuning in. See you around.
You have been listened to DevSecOps Talks with Mattias, Andrey, and Paulina. For notes and information, please visit devsecops.fm. Thanks for tuning in.